Well, hello. My name is Jackie Labbe, and I'm a professor of English literature, and I'm also Faculty Pro Vice Chancellor for Arts and Humanities. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is normative argumentation. I'd like to give you a sense of what it means to write in a way that is logical and progressive and ordered. And so we're going to start with the idea of logic. I want to give you a sense of different ways in which you can approach logic and how you might approach the idea of getting your thoughts on paper. So if we just start out with the word logic, there are different ways we can think about that. But how about if we give ourselves a sentence? How about if we think about it like this? Look out! Giant interruption coming. Well, that spells out logic for us, but what does it tell us? It's not going to work, it's going to be interrupted, it won't have order. This is a form of logic, but it's not good logic. That's not the logic you want. Let's think about it in another way. Let's think about it in terms of the words that might give you a sense of what logic can feel like. How about lovely, orderly, grounded, interesting, collected? Lovely, because that's what an essay should feel like. It should have beauty, it should have form. Orderly, because it should have progression. It should move from one to the other in a way that makes sense. Grounded, because you need the evidence. You need to have what's there in front of you to make your argument make sense to your reader. Interesting, because after all, you want your reader to keep reading. You want it to be interesting for them. And finally, collected, because it should be a whole. It should be collected together, and it should have that integrity of its own. So if we think about this kind of logic, that starts to give us a sense about what it means to make an argument that is working for yourself and for your reader. Now, in order to give you a little bit of illustration of this, I'd like to direct us to a classic of 19th century children's literature, Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. And I'm just going to start us off by thinking a little bit about Alice's interactions with a couple of characters. So first of all, let's think about Alice and the Caterpillar. Alice and the Caterpillar have an interaction that goes like this. "Who are you?" said the Caterpillar. Alice replied rather shyly, I hardly know, sir, just at present. At least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have changed several times since then." "What do you mean by that?" said the Caterpillar sternly. "Explain yourself." "I can't explain myself, I'm afraid, sir," said Alice, "because I'm not myself, you see." "I don't see," said the Caterpillar. "I'm afraid I can't put it any more clearly," Alice replied very politely, "for I can't understand it myself, to begin with, and being so many different sizes in a day is very confusing." "It isn't," said the Caterpillar. "Well, perhaps you haven't found it so yet," said Alice, "but when you have to turn into a chrysalis, you will someday, you know, and then after that into a butterfly, I should think you'll feel a little queer, won't you?" "Not a bit," said the Caterpillar. "Well, perhaps your feelings may be different," said Alice. "All I know is it would feel very queer to me." "You," said the Caterpillar contemptuously. "Who are you?" Which brought them back again to the beginning of the conversation. So let's just think for a couple of minutes. What's gone wrong here in this conversation? And what does the conversation lack? This is more the logic of the sort of, look out, giant interruption coming. Each time Alice or the Caterpillar says something, they change tack. They're exchanging information, but they're not listening to each other, and they're not allowing the conversation to progress. So it ends at the same point that it began. What we really want is the logic that allows progression and allows movement, not merely conveying information. In this example, all we have is information, but we have no sense. So if we think about another encounter of Alice's, this time with Humpty Dumpty and Through the Looking Glass, and it goes a little something like this. "Don't stand there chattering like that," Humpty Dumpty said, looking at her for the first time, "but tell me your name and your business." "My name is Alice, but—" "It's a stupid name enough," Humpty Dumpty interrupted impatiently. "What does it mean?" "Must a name mean something?" asked Alice doubtfully. "Of course it must," Humpty Dumpty said with a short laugh. "My name means the shape I am, and a good, handsome shape it is, too. With a name like yours, you might be any shape almost." And they go on. "So here's a question for you. How old did you say you were?" said Humpty Dumpty. Alice made a short calculation and said, 7 years and 6 months. "Wrong," Humpty Dumpty exclaimed triumphantly. "You never said a word like it." "I thought you meant, how old are you?" Alice explained. "If I'd meant that, "I'd have said it," said Humpty Dumpty. And finally, "When I use a word," Humpty Dumpty said in rather a scornful tone, "it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less." "The question is," said Alice, "whether you can make words mean so many different things." "The question is," said Humpty Dumpty, "which is to be master, that's all." So let's think about this exchange. In constructing an argument, should you be like Alice or like Humpty Dumpty? Both of their arguments had pitfalls. Alice assumed she knew what she was being asked. She didn't actually answer the question that she was being asked. She answered a different one because she assumed he meant something else. She didn't listen, and so she didn't answer properly. Humpty Dumpty, on the other hand, asserts that he can make language mean whatever he wants it to mean. So it's up to him to decide, and it's up to the reader to kind of go along with him and just believe him implicitly. Both of these are illogical modes of approaching argumentation. One doesn't listen, and the other doesn't explain. So when you're thinking about your argument, you want to be neither like Alice nor like Humpty Dumpty. In other words, you always have to listen to what you're being asked, answer the question that has been set, answer only that question, but do it in a way that others will be able to understand, using language that they will understand as well. So if we just move on finally and back to logic and thinking about your own essay and how you might put it together, I'm going to give you a final image. Your essay is a tree. The trunk of the tree, since every tree must have a trunk, is the main idea of your essay. Each paragraph in your essay has a main statement that acts as a root connected to the trunk of the tree of your essay. If it's not connected to the trunk of the tree, it doesn't belong in your essay. It has to be directly connected, even as a root must be directly connected. Each sentence in your paragraph is like a subroot that's connected to the root's main statement. It's only connected to that root, not connected to any other root, and it must be connected to that root. All the subroots must be connected to its own root. All the roots must be related to the trunk. If you don't have that kind of an essay, you don't have a logical essay. You don't have an essay that proceeds according to normative argumentation, and your reader will not know what you want them to learn.